and security for the British people, and I commend this statement to the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Prime Minister for advance sight of his statement, but it is utterly reprehensible that he began it by accusing the previous government of isolationism. The same Conservative government, the Business Secretary is laughing, just that, we'll tell him, the same Conservative government that led the world in our response to the invasion of Ukraine, that signed a vital strategic alliance in AUKUS. The Business Secretary is asking how many FTAs. We signed Britain's biggest post-Brexit trade deal, the CPTPP, bringing us closer to the 11 Indo-Pacific nations, including Japan. He asks, I know about that deal because I signed it myself. And so I welcome the Prime Minister's efforts to collaborate more with our long-standing ally, Japan. But let's turn to China. Of course Britain should engage with China, even though the Chancellor wasn't allowed to go, even though they are an authoritarian state who seek to undermine our interests, even though they spy on us, sometimes within the walls of this building, even though they fund regimes around the world hostile to our country, they are a fact of life, a global power and an economic reality. So let me be clear. It is not the Prime Minister engaging with China that we take issue with. What we are criticising is his supine and short-termist approach. I'm sure the Prime Minister means well, but his negotiating tactic has always been to give everything away in the hope that people will be nice to him in return. Before the Prime Minister even got on the plane, he'd already shown that he would do anything to demonstrate his good relationship with China. But China uses every interaction to improve its own position. The Prime Minister looked like he enjoyed his trip. In fact, it looked like a dream come true for a man who was virtually a communist most of his life. But apart from the... Mr. Speaker, apart from the Labubu doll in his suitcase, and I hope he's checked it for bugs, he has come back with next to nothing. We all want cheaper tariffs for Scottish whisky, but if the Prime Minister bothered to speak to the whisky industry like I did 2 weeks ago, he would know that what they really need is cheaper energy and lower taxes. What else did he get? Visa-free travel. China already offers this to other countries. It's not big enough for a prime ministerial visit. But the worst thing, Mr. Speaker, the worst thing was the Prime Minister claiming a glorious triumph with the lifting of sanctions on 4 Conservative MPs, as if he'd done us a favour. Let me tell him, those MPs were sanctioned because they stood up to China. They stood up against human rights abuses. They stood up against the country spying on our MPs in a way that he wouldn't dare. Those people don't want to go to China. The Chinese know that. They know that they are giving him something that costs absolutely nothing. Why can't the British Prime Minister see that? And I say to you, Mr. Speaker, and the whole House, like with the Chagos Islands, the Prime Minister has been played. China is about to build an enormous spy hub in the centre of London, a ransom he had to pay before he could even get on the plane. I would never allow Britain to be held over a barrel like that. Yet again, the Prime Minister has negotiated our country into a weaker position in the world. His entire economic policy is to tax business more, regulate them harder, and make energy so expensive that we deindustrialize. And then we can import Chinese wind turbines, Chinese solar panels, Chinese batteries for electric vehicles, all manufactured in a country that is building a coal-fired power station every other week. Did he speak to them about that? What did his trip achieve for Jimmy Lai? Nothing. Did China promise to stop fueling Putin's war machine in Ukraine? Doesn't sound like it. What did this trip achieve for the Uyghurs who are being enslaved? Absolutely nothing. Have China agreed to stop their relentless cyber attacks? Have they? We all know the answer to that. The reality is that China showed its strength and Britain was pushed around, literally. It is no wonder, Mr. Speaker, that President Xi praised the Labour Party because the Conservatives stood up for Britain. We don't get pushed around. Britain is a great trading nation. Of course we should engage with other countries, even hostile ones.
Order. Mr. Kyle, you said to me when you go into China how well you will behave, how you owe me a big thank you. You're not showing it today. Come in, Ben. No?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not worried about the business secretary. The entire business community thinks he's a joke and doesn't know what he's talking about. So, as I was saying, of course we should engage with other countries, even hostile ones, but we need to do so with our eyes open and from a position of strength. And that requires a Prime Minister and a government that puts our national interest first.
Mr. Speaker, let me see if I understand her position. This is the Leader of the Opposition who said we should empty chair the most important NATO summit for years, who wouldn't turn up to the G7, who would rip up our valuable trade deals with the US, India and the EU. This is the Leader of the Opposition who characterised Greenland as a second-order issue, then undermined the government's position on sovereignty. And when it comes to China, her policy is to stick her head in the sand, unable to influence anything. In a volatile world, that is not policy, that's an abdication of responsibility. No wonder her front bench are leaving in droves. And Mr. Speaker, she talks of the embassy. China's had an embassy in the UK since 1877. It's currently spread across 7 sites. The Leader of the Opposition is so busy trying to hold her party together, she's clearly not read the letter the Security and Intelligence Services. But, Mr. Speaker, she claims great interest in the China embassy. She was offered an invite for a Privy Council briefing on the issue. What did she do? She chose not to attend. Mr. Speaker, that's a dereliction of duty. Even worse, what did she do? She sent in her place the member for Croydon South, the Shadow Home Secretary. That is a double dereliction of duty. Instead of taking up a Privy Council briefing, she took up a megaphone on the streets outside the embassy. I changed my party from a party of protest to a party of power. She's rapidly going in the opposite direction. And her reply this afternoon seems to be that we should engage with China, but not engage with China. That what we should do, instead of leader-to-leader discussions where we raise all the opportunities and the difficult issues, each and every one of them, instead of those leader-to-leader meetings, should get a bag of sand and put her head in it and influence absolutely nothing. They're so unserious about world affairs.
Chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, Dame Emily Thornbury.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for his statement, and I'm pleased to see that his trip went so well. This morning, I was in touch with the Scotch Whisky Association, who want me to convey their congratulations to the Prime Minister for securing reduced tariffs with China. But there is, of course, more work needed. A Prime Minister's job is never done. The biggest overseas market for whisky is, of course, the US, where the tariff is still too high. So can the Prime Minister confirm that this will not be the end of the support that he will give to the Scotch whisky industry and will continue to be an advocate for them?
Yes, I can confirm that. We're continuing to work with the US and, of course, the India deal that we secured will have an impact on tariff for whisky as well.
Okay. Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with your indulgence, can I start by paying tribute to my friend Jim Wallace, one of the great Scottish Liberals, and offer our thoughts and prayers to his family and many friends. Jim devoted his life to public service, his Christian faith, and the cause of liberalism. But, Mr. Speaker, his judgment wasn't always impeccable, for it was Jim who gave me my first job in politics. As opposed to your last. We will miss him. Turning to the statement, can I thank the Prime Minister for advanced sight of it? I listened to the Conservative leader, whose position now seems to be to oppose trade with the world's biggest economies. So much for global Britain. But with, Mr. Speaker, with President Trump threatening tariffs again, just because of the Prime Minister's trip, with Vladimir Putin still murdering civilians in Ukraine, now more than ever, the United Kingdom must forge much closer alliances with nations who share our values, our belief in free trade and our commitment to our mutual defence. But China is none of those. The Prime Minister's main focus should be on the closest possible ties with our European neighbours, our Commonwealth allies and our friends like Japan and Korea. So once again, he has made the wrong choice. However, unlike the Conservative Party, we think he was right to go and engage. But just like with President Trump, he approached President Xi from a position of weakness instead of a position of strength, promising him a super embassy here in London in return for relatively meagre offers from China. He rightly raised the case of Jimmy Lai, whose children fear for his health after 5 years held in captivity. So will the Prime Minister tell us what Xi said to give him confidence that Mr. Lai is now more likely to be released? Did he also challenge Xi over the bounties on the heads of innocent Hong Kongers here in the United Kingdom? Or the revelations that China hacked the phones of number 10 officials for years? In other words, did he stand up for Britain this time? And yet again, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister had to spend time on a foreign trip responding to revelations about the vile paedophile and sex trafficker Jimmy Epstein and his relationship with Lord Mandelson. The Prime Minister has rightly said that Mandelson should resign from the other place. But since he hasn't, will he back a simple piece of legislation to strip him of his peerage? Surely this House could pass it tomorrow.
Minister.
Can I start by offering my deep condolences on behalf of the government in relation to Lord Wallace? He was a kind and decent man, and I know he'll be sorely missed on the Liberal Democrat benches, and may he rest in peace. In relation to the approach to China, of course we need to build stronger alliances with our key partners, and that's what we have been doing, particularly with the EU. But he's wrong. It's not a choice between doing that and engaging with China. One can do both, and that is what we're doing. And I think it's more important where there are opportunities and sensitive and really important disagreements to have a meeting to discuss them. Because the House is violently agreeing that there are issues that need to be discussed. The difference between us is we think that having a leader-to-leader meeting to discuss those issues is better than sticking your head in the sand if you really want to influence things. So we can do both. In relation to the points he raised, yes, I did raise the case of Jimmy Lai, and we've now spoken to his family about that discussion. Yes, I did raise the case of Hong Kong. I raised a number of human rights issues, as I listed. The point was, by being in the room, having the debate one-to-one with the leader at leader level, it was possible to raise those issues. There is, frankly, no point standing in this House shouting and screaming about issues if you're not prepared to get in the room to discuss them. It gets you absolutely nowhere.
Chair of Business Committee, Liam Byrne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to welcome the Prime Minister's serious engagement with serious power. It is essential to safeguarding our national interest. Mr. Speaker, the complexities of China require from Britain a whole-of-society approach, which is completely impossible until the government publishes a clear China strategy to explain what is off-limits and how we're going to rebalance competition with Chinese industry that is 6 times over-subsidised compared to our firms. Now, last week in Europe, I heard very clearly from our partners that they are worried that the lackadaisical approach to policing Chinese competition risks deeper integration with Europe. The EU has 143 trade measures in place against Europe. We have none. So will the Prime Minister now follow through his meetings last week and publish a strategy coordinated with our allies so we can take out the guesswork and put in place the guardrails for this important relationship?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for his question? Obviously, the general approach was set out in the Lady Mayor's banquet speech I gave just before Christmas. On the point he makes about Europe, this is a really important point. As I mentioned, President Macron went to China just a few weeks ago. Chancellor Merz is due to go very shortly, and he won't be surprised to learn that the three of us, as the E3, discussed in advance the approach we would take, and we'll discuss during the visits and afterwards the outcomes and how we go forward as a group of European nations.
Father of the House, Sir Edward Lee.
What absolutely unites everybody in this place is absolute outrage at the treatment of Jimmy Lai, a British citizen whose only crime is to campaign for democracy and to ask the Chinese to obey the spirit and the letter of the agreement that we made with them solemnly before the 1997 takeover. Now, the Prime Minister, I saw the weekend, said he'd raised respectfully with the latest Chinese emperor the case of Jimmy Lai. Respectfully, doesn't the Prime Minister realise that the Chinese only accept strength, that everything is a deal? So why didn't he say to them, there'll be no Chinese embassy until you stop spying us in this House, that you give an absolute assurance to us on Diego Garcia, and above all, you free Jimmy Lai now?
Mr. Speaker, I raised the case of Jimmy Lai in terms with the President, as in fact I did, as he knows, at the G20 when I met the President for the first time, and we have updated the family in relation to the progress that we've made. But the position of the party opposite seems to be you should raise the case of Jimmy Lai by not going to China and raising the case of Jimmy Lai.
Children's Defence Select Committee, Tan Singh Desi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We must engage pragmatically with our